Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to The Poisoner's Almanac. I am your co-host, Adam.
I'm Rebecca.
Rebecca's voice.
I am sick. I'm sorry.
Rebecca has been ill. She's ill with tuberculosis.
I am not.
Just kidding. She has been sick. We couldn't record yesterday because I forced her to today, this morning. What day is it?
I don't know. This has been the longest month. Like, I think it's like January 75th. As someone texted me
January has 317 days in it.
I'm tired of it.
So we couldn't record this morning because we both woke up this morning and I rolled over. You sounded like hot trash. And I said, you're going to the doctor.
Yeah, I sounded like death.
And you tried to refuse. You protested. The lady death protest much.
You know why though?
Because you're ridiculous.
I just didn't want to go anywhere. Going to the doctor sounded hard.
No, you're okay. Okay, you're okay. That's fair. That's fair. But even beyond that,
you got to call them. You got to make an appointment, and you protest. Go do it.
You protest against any sort of medical care that may cost any measure of money.
Well, yeah,
on yourself.
It just, part of me feels ashamed, and I know this is silly because I'm a nurse, right? And like, what good is being a nurse if you can't help yourself? And I get it. Like, I can't just carry around IV poles and stuff. And I can't carry around, I can't prescribe myself medication. So that sucks. But like,
some nurses do.
Yeah. Well, even doctors, like, it's kind of frowned upon to prescribe yourself medication. I mean, you could do it, but it's like,
you think?
I mean, it's kind of a taboo sort of thing. But
yeah. Becca's been sick. She is, she went to the doctor, got some medication today. She hated every second of it. Yeah. She was texting me. I was getting live text updates from the waiting room. And folks, let me tell you, if you want to have some fun,
I was being a bit moody and judgy.
You were being 100% normal.
Like, oh, well, for me or something.
There was literally no difference between how you behaved in the text messages this morning and all the other times you've been stuck in a waiting room.
I'll just say, I can be very observant. And I like to share what I see. And I was also very grumpy at the time.
It's hysterical. It is the pettiest, most judgmental, and most humorous banter you've ever seen. I love it so. I've screenshotted so many of our text conversations.
It wasn't that judgy. It was over like little things.
Just to check in with you real quick.
The fact that they had Daniel Tiger on the TV and there was no child in there. And I'm sorry, but I liked Daniel Tiger for all of 2 weeks. For when Camilla was little, but then the songs, they stay in your head and they never go away.
Yes. Which is the point.
So we're not talking about judgment in terms of, oh my God, can you believe, why is she wearing that? Not that kind of judgment.
No, y'all. The autistic judgment is a different flavor of the same ice cream. It's, it's so much fun. The things that we say, the wittiest stuff we ever say between each other. I mean, there's some great stuff that happens, like, out loud verbally, but like the text messages, man, they're art.
Like if you're out wearing
let me pull it up.
No, if you're out in PJs, I'm gonna look at you and be like, same, because I feel that energy. That's not that, no judgment for me on that, because honestly, same. Really.
Hang on. She said they're doing a strep and flu test. The lady put that thing up my nose so far I felt my eye twitch. LOL.
It went up there. It was up there pretty deep.
She had,
I thought she was trying to mummify me for a little bit.
She's gonna grab that brain.
Which I guess, in a way, I wouldn't feel anything because
you would not.
Did you know the brain doesn't feel pain?
Actually, I did know that. Yeah.
So I mean, I imagine you would feel something if somebody drug it through your nose.
Mm-hmm.
That would suck
for sure.
Of course, if they put something in it, you may not feel anything after. Anyway, okay. I'm getting way too into this.
So yeah, Becca's doing her best with this recording.
I am. I have some hot chocolate.
Mm-hmm. She got hot chocolate
in my aconitum Napellus cup.
Hot chocolate in a custom poison themed mug that she made herself, and an extremely handsome and loving husband across from her for this podcast. She has it all. She's that girl.
Okay. I mean, I love you, but my God.
I have to compliment myself because Becca does not have that update yet.
God. Compliment you. I tell you what a good job you do sometimes, and I remark on
To transition to housekeeping, I completely ruined that.
your intelligence. What am I supposed to say? Oh my God, you look so nice today. That's probably what I'm supposed to say. Never mind.
Oh my God, that's probably what I'm supposed to say. Ugh.
Look, I'm learning. I'm growing. Okay, I'm evolving. Of course,
Doing the work.
when I say evolving, I immediately think of Pokemon. But I'm growing.
I'm learning to identify my own emotions. Ugh.
Which Pokemon do you think I'd be?
You? What's the one that electrocutes you as soon as you touch it?
What?
I don't know. I'm not even thinking of a Pokemon. I just use that description to be funny.
I think I'm Psyduck.
That's the one. Oh,
Yeah.
if you guys Google Psyduck. Becca's internal world is Psyduck's facial expression.
I feel that. He's always got like a headache or something. You'd be like, you would be, you might know this one. Let's see.
Okay.
I'm going to think of one you know.
It doesn't have to be one I know. Be accurate.
Okay. Bulbasaur.
Bulbasaur? Why?
Because you make that kind of noise. Bulbasaur. Or Snorlax. Because you do nap a lot.
Oh, naps are the best. Okay. So that brings us to housekeeping.
Or one of the rock ones. Geodude. You could be Geodude.
Geodude. Gotta go look at him.
I'm sorry.
All right. Story time. I escaped a religious cult 7 years ago. Without going into too much detail here, let me just say it was an extremely difficult journey. My mental health spiraled downhill, and I thankfully had enough presence of mind to seek out a therapist to work through what was going on with me. My therapist helped give me context to all the wild things I'd walked away from. He was kind, patient, and guided me through what my new normal might look like. I had never had healthy boundaries in my life. Therapy helped show me that as a result of being in a cult or high control group, I had never fully become my own person. It's a shocking thing to learn at the age of 32. I learned how to communicate to the people around me what I was going to do and, more importantly, not do with my time, energy, and resources. BetterHelp is the sponsor of this episode, and they're on a mission to make starting therapy easier. BetterHelp is a platform where therapists and their clients can communicate effectively and get the most out of therapy. There's a journal inside the platform for personal reflection, and there are group sessions on a number of different topics available every day. Starting therapy is easy with BetterHelp. Fill out a questionnaire, and you'll match with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. One of the best features of BetterHelp is that if the first therapist doesn't feel like the right fit, you can easily switch to another one until you find someone you really connect with. They carefully make sure therapists on the platform are well qualified, and their customer support team is there to help if you have any questions. With over 7,000 reviews and a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, BetterHelp is a platform you can trust. If you're struggling and think you'd benefit from a therapy session, go to betterhelp.com/almanac or choose the Poisoner's Almanac during sign-up and get 10% off your first month of therapy. That brings us to housekeeping. Make sure to follow us on the platform you're listening on. Thanks in advance for leaving 5-star reviews. Those function like a tip jar and pushes the podcast further into the algorithm and toward the ears of listeners like yourself who would enjoy it. Make sure you follow us on social media. We have links in the show notes for those accounts, especially the podcast Instagram, Poisoners_Almanac. Why are you laughing? What's going on? What did you Google? May I see it?
That's Geodude.
I got to see footage of him.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I need to hear his voice. And
I'm over here interrupting the housekeeping.
Yeah. Make sure to follow the podcast Instagram. Where when you're listening on your phone, screenshot that and post it on your socials and tag us so that we can see that. I recently got one since the last episode that was very sweet. We'd love to share that on our channels as well. You know how it goes. Feed the algo. The Patreon is up and running. Let us know what kind of content you'd like to see on the Patreon. You can join for free, but you can also become a paid Patreon member or patron, as they're called, for it's $1.30 now.
$1.30? That was $1.50.
$1.50. Is
I
it?
don't know.
So the price, ladies and gentlemen, you have Apple to thank for jacking up the price
Inflation.
of anything.
Don't they have enough money?
They've got enough. I think it's just them being them.
They're taking another bite out of that apple.
Take another bite out of that apple. So it is no longer $1 a month. It's more like $1.50 in United States dollars. Because, nothing's expensive enough. We need more expense in America or wherever you are in the world. So yeah, that's what the price increase is from, just so you know. And of course, you can choose to do more than $1.50 a month if you'd like, if you are so moved. Paying patrons have perks such as bonus episodes, the option to leave us a voicemail that we can play here on the podcast, which we will be doing shortly.
So perky.
And also you get shouted out by name here on the podcast. And those people are as follows: 87 Pens Girl 71, Mara Santiago, Kate the Fairy, Grace Lahan, Genevieve, Nahev Shatri, Jay Went, Inken Hafner, Kira Yorsek, Tay of Sunshine, Monique, Shane R., Sue Steves, James Mills, Megan Geiler, Liz B., Willie Wolf NZ, Mama G., Nicole Rivers, Richard Miyako, Heather Nolan, Katie Rose, Kaylee, Sasha Rubel, Maya Showstock, Maggie's Yarm, Ogre the Viking, Lynn Rocket, Brett Moser, Zaid, Neil Houdini, Nicole Crane, Jefferson Vargas, Carmen Q, Sarah G, Knittin' Ninja, Estar, Olive Octopus, Betsy Rich, Terrorsaurus Hex, T-Bug, Christine Moljati, Morgan Brittingham, Blau Frosch, also known as Clara Jurisons, Vix, Caitlin C, Anne Maria, Carl Ziegler Jr., Clyde, Jennifer Wilson Richter, Macaulay Sterland, Too Fidgety, Wendy G, Elena M.K., Vilma Anderson, Caitlin Martin, Pun Grand 101, Minnesota SPT, Michael McCombs, Tasha, Stuart Slattery, Prem Risen, Simone Valdez, Christian Skretegod, Tina at Have Not Had My Coffee.
I had mine.
That's right. Maria Anna, Bonnie, Oma D. Is it Rhinell? She sent us a DM about saying her name correctly.
I think
Is it Runell?
I think it's Rhinell.
Rhinell Alara? I've forgotten. We've been over this. Sorry, Rhinell.
Rhinell Alara, I think.
Rhinell Alara. Kristen Arnold, Aaron Carey, Lynn Simpson, Melissa Emmel, Desiree Davis, Jennifer Ramirez Johnson, Dalek Party, which who doesn't want to party with a Dalek, and the Warped Witch.
Exterminate.
Jennifer Ramirez Johnson sounds like a congresswoman from New York.
That sounds cool.
JRJ, 2028. And the Warped Witch was obviously the villain that Rhysand and Feyre confronted at the cottage in the woods.
If you're talking about the Weaver, I think that is she a villain? Because she did take Ianthe out. Is it Ianthe? That was a strange name, but Ianthe. I don't like. I call her something else because I can't stand that girl.
Oh, she's awful.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, so those are our patrons. Also, send us questions or contact suggestions to the Instagram with a comment or a DM. Also, leave us a voicemail. I recently posted the link for you patrons to leave us a voicemail. Come on. That link was posted. You haven't left us a voicemail yet. You want to. Give in to the peer pressure. Let's do this. But speaking of voicemails, we have a brand new one from the aforementioned Dalek Party. And let's cue that up.
My name is Hazel, but I'm Dalek Party on the Patreon. Your podcast has become a big comfort podcast to me. It's so nice to listen to another neurodivergent person talking about their passions. And as someone that's also in the late diagnosis club, it's also really encouraging to me to see you guys, to see Rebecca putting herself out there and to see your support of her.
Yeah.
And I also have to say, as someone with a special interest in Greek mythology, sometimes your pronunciations of the gods' names hurts me.
That's why I've been having so much bad luck lately. I'm getting smited.
I can tell you how to pronounce it if you're not sure. Greek mythology was like my first ever special interest. So, if you have a question, I could probably answer it.
Nice. Yes, I will be consulting when we cover more Greek mythology stuff.
It's going to be raining DMs.
I know, because like a lot of like when I learned Greek mythology, it was we did it in high school, and the lady that taught us had a very interesting accent. So
what kind of accent?
Well, it was like Southern, but there was something else. There was an extra twanginess to it.
Oh my gosh.
And so yeah. So especially if it's place names, my mouth cannot. It's like there's certain like rural. How do you say that word? Rural. Can you say that word?
Rural.
Okay. Yeah, I do struggle with pronunciation sometimes. I try though to like look up stuff, but sometimes
Google has like it'll demonstrate how things
sometimes
are
Google's wrong though too, because I'll look it up 2 different places and it's like 2 different pronunciations, and I'm like, well. But it's good to have a resource like that. I appreciate it because yes.
Thank you, Hazel. It was really great to hear from someone who is also late diagnosed neurodivergent.
Indeed.
It's a segment of society that is growing every day because a couple more, or probably a bunch more people, basically through social media, are finding out, oh, it's the TISM.
Yeah, or
it's the ADHD or something along those lines. And of course, the ladies get diagnosed late because they're better at masking as children, so they just don't put all that behavior on display.
And also, they didn't really have criteria to diagnose for women. They were basically just looking at white
little
boys. So,
so the research data has got to become more robust, and you guys will see
diverse for sure.
More diverse. We talk about everything neurodivergent on our main TikTok. So many of you may have found our podcast through that TikTok, but if you're interested in those things as well, drop us a follow, link in the show notes. So, what are we talking about today?
Well, I want to talk about some more poisonous places. We've talked about like some, I think we had a whole episode on toxic towns, I think, like toxic ghost towns that we talked about. And I had some more places I want to talk about. And I've also got, I've also got, my voice like caught something, but I've also got.
You are better at dying. Sorry. I had to get that out of my system because we just mentioned Daleks. Sorry.
Yes. That's time, man. Yeah. So I've been looking at the DMs on Instagram, and I got my little notebook, and I've just been writing like all the suggestions that you guys leave on there for us. And so there's a few other places I want to elaborate on. Like I know we hit on like 3 Mile Island, I think, when we talked about Chernobyl, maybe. And I think we also mentioned Fukushima, the power plant there. So I am going to, not on this particular episode, but I am going to hit on those, I think, next. Because the funny thing was, I get like this idea where I'm just going to I'm going to put this in this episode and this in this episode and this and this and this.
And the episode's 4.5 hours long.
Well, like I try to keep it at a certain word count now, right?
Oh, is that your target?
I try to,
Is that how you do that? Okay.
Because I kind of know now how long it's going to take to get through all of that.
I try to trust the magic, you guys. I don't try to bother the genius of this podcast too much with practical questions. Okay?
Because in going through this, I had like 3 or 4 places I wanted to get through, but there was one particular place, as we'll discuss, that there was more about it than I realized, and so I just went in deeper. I wanted to cover all of it, right? So yeah, there's that, and then upcoming as well. I want to talk about, someone sent me a pretty cool article on the cleanup for the Navajo Nation's uranium mines area. Yeah, like here in America. So
there's a uranium mine on a Navajo reservation.
Well,
is that what you're saying?
The Navajo Nation leased out these mines to the to American corporations,
to private
yeah,
companies.
because back in the day they needed it for weapons and such. So
That's fascinating.
yeah, and
I wonder if they gave them fair market price.
I doubt, but we'll go over that hopefully next episode too.
Oh, I'm immediately interested.
So, which makes sense. 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, uranium. I feel like that kind of goes together, right? Nuclear stuff. So, but today's places, we're gonna go. We are leaving the U.S. for this episode. I want to talk about. I want to talk about Indonesia for a minute. So, we're gonna go to the sulfur mines of Indonesia. Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Well, we tend to take for granted how easy it is to just go buy some matches, right? Or batteries. I mean, batteries are expensive, but like we could just go buy them, right? Or to shoot off fireworks on certain holidays. Side note, I hate fireworks, but here we are. I can do the what do you call them? Sparklers. I can do that. Yeah, but then I get like super like obsessive with making sure it's out. I think I'll put it in a cup of water. I don't know what it is, but I have this great fear of setting something on fire on accident.
Yeah.
That might be a childhood trauma right there. Anyway, in some parts of the world, people suffer and sometimes die just to get what is needed to make such things. There is an active volcano in Indonesia called Kawah Ijen, where tourists go to see blue flames. There are others who go for a different reason, however. Sulfur. And it's the sulfur burning that causes these blue flames, by the way. But there are other, so they go for the sulfur. And while the tourists are wearing gas masks to prevent inhalation of toxic fumes, those working for the sulfur often are not, because many just can't afford them. They could barely afford materials used to mine the sulfur. They have to buy their own materials to use to mine the sulfur working there.
Wait a minute. Is this similar to like how they harvest oysters off the coast of South Carolina? Like it's individuals with their own boat just chucking oysters into a boat?
Yeah, but this is in a toxic volcano setting.
Right. But I'm saying like there's no mining company.
No, there is a company that owns the mines. And these people go and work the mines, and then they bring it back for a price. They basically sell it off to the
independent. They're like independent contractors.
Yeah, they sell it off to the company that owns these mines.
I just can't believe it's allowed because of how dangerous it is.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't expect to have a consistent.
But this is also like the best paying job in this area.
Sure, but it's clearly exploitation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the idea is they go up, and I'm gonna explain how they do this, but they bring it down and they bring it and sell it back to the factory, which filters it and all this stuff. And it's a dangerous part of it too, but we'll go over that too. So yeah, sulfur is used for various household things in Indonesia, such as matches and batteries, as I mentioned, but also used in the making of rubber, wine, sugar, detergents, fireworks, and gunpowder. So those traveling up to the mines do so on foot, and they go up and down these steep, rough paths with packs to put the quote-unquote devil's gold, as it's called. It's called that. So, yeah, inside these packs to carry back. Many make the trip twice a day. And they do this because, like I said, this is like the best paying kind of job there is there. Yeah. They can make anywhere between $10 and $17 per day. And I really want to paint a good picture of where they are mining the sulfur. So let me compare it to Death Mountain, Legend of Zelda, right? Breath of the Wild. Okay. I know it's not the only. I want you to get the image of the volcano in Breath of the Wild. Like
this is Goron Canyon, or Goron, what's it called?
Right above Goron City, I guess.
Goron City, yeah.
Yeah, that mountain.
Oh,
with it's a volcano though. Mm-hmm. So think of that one.
Okay.
But with blue flames popping out and toxic fumes and smoke constantly in your face. Like thick fumes. No divine beasts yet or anything. But anyway.
How many hearts do I have?
2.
Okay.
Anyway, so
it's dangerous to go and take this.
Anyway, if some of you are like, what the heck is she talking about? Picture this: an active volcano. It's got toxic steam and heated rock with blue flames lighting up the sky, especially at night, as the sulfur catches on fire. And part of where the toxic fumes comes from is this sulfur catching on fire, the gases that are released from it. But also, it's a volcano, so there's a lot of toxic stuff steaming out, right?
Mhm.
Now, these men, some of them ride bikes if they have them to a certain point of the mountain, usually to the foot of the crater. But then they have to climb like 2,800 meters or nearly 2 miles of steep areas and cliffs to reach the crater opening where they drop in, trying not to fall or land on loose rocks so they can physically remove and haul away hundreds of pounds of sulfur. And they use things like, crowbars. Like,
Yeah,
not specialized tools,
No, I'm
whatever
not
they
surprised at
can
all.
get.
Listen, you're not. It's just so tragic to me that they're sending these people down there completely unprepared. They're gonna die young.
Well, yeah. And they, they don't have, most of them don't have gloves or
No.
gas masks. They cover their faces with like a cloth or a handkerchief, whatever they can get.
It's so terrible.
So yeah. And some of these men, they take back 200 pounds or more, like more than their body weight for many of them at a time, back down the unstable sides of this volcano. Like, we're talking,
Wow.
that's a lot of weight.
Imagine 200. Good grief.
Yeah. And this is like twice a day for most of them. They go up and down this thing twice a day. So some carry the sulfur in makeshift backpacks, and others use a couple of baskets carried by a pole in between them on their backs. So you can imagine like the injuries and long-term back and shoulder pain that are common thanks to this kind of work. Also, because of the fumes, the eyes are just watering continuously, and it's hard to breathe. It's also consistently above 100 degrees in this area. And these men are constantly dealing with constant respiratory troubles, like without a gas mask especially. And yeah, so they're just wearing like these small cloths around their face, And like if you're a tourist, you're basically like, it just feels kind of terrible because like you're wearing a gas mask to go see these blue flames, and you're just watching these people doing their best to
being
survive.
slowly poisoned to death by the job that they have to do or starve.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. Yeah. So what exactly is sulfur? Sulfur is an element that you can obviously find on the periodic table, of course, with the symbol S. Well, on the periodic table, some elements have like lead, Pb, but it comes from the Latin term for lead, like we call lead now. So, plumbum.
I forgot about that.
Plumbum, yeah. Anyway, so S. It is the 5th most common element on Earth, at least by mass, and is typically found in or near hot springs and volcanic regions. So, yeah. It may also be on the seafloor, connected to underwater or submarine volcanoes and hydrothermal vents. There are sulfuric minerals as well, including pyrite, which is iron sulfide, cinnabar, mercury sulfide. We actually mentioned it when we talked about mercury. Gypsum, calcium sulfate, and galena, which is lead sulfide. So we're gonna stick to elemental sulfur to avoid confusion. Sorry, Sheldon, but geology is a real science. Also, the reason why Jupiter's moon Io is all yellow, sulfur.
Oh, that's great. Io is
makes sense because there's lots of volcanic activity, right?
Yeah, Io is a destination planet in Destiny 2.
Yeah, is it yellow?
It is.
Yeah.
Matter of fact,
Are the volcanoes?
Yes.
Well, I'm glad they at least got that right.
There's like geothermal emissions coming up from the ground too.
Yeah. Anyway, just a typical piece of sulfur is not easily absorbed through the skin and is not all that harmful to people. If contact with skin is prolonged, however, it can cause rashes and blisters. So you can imagine working with it all day, every day. If you're touching it all day, every day. Yep.
Yeah.
Also, when burned in air, it releases sulfur dioxide, which is this pungent gas. That's that smell of rotten eggs.
Yeah.
and it's a precursor to sulfuric acid. So it has been used as a fumigant in South. I just punched myself in the.
Okay, you better leave that in. That
Ow.
was funny. Are you okay?
Fine. I was trying to get hair out of my face. And I just
Just
smashed
went for it.
myself.
Oh, that's so good.
Okay. But where's the head? Okay. Oh my God. Y'all, it's been a week.
Hmm.
No, it has been used as a fumigant in South America, used to kill disease-causing rats, because we don't want, the bubonic plague.
Nope.
Sulfur dioxide has also has its uses as an effective preservative for dried fruits and wine. In low amounts, it is mildly toxic, but in high enough amounts, say when what these sulfur miners are inhaling, it can lead to horrible respiratory problems and cause inflammation in the airways, as well as chronic coughing. And it isn't just the fumes you have to worry about. Like I said, the temperatures stay around 100 degrees Fahrenheit or more. And there's also toxic and acidic lakes in the area. Now, these relatively small bodies of water are quite close to where the miners work. And the water is basically battery acid because of the sulfur and other compounds,
Yeah, there's
right?
no way it doesn't.
Yeah, it's like, sulfuric acid up in there.
Wow.
It is known among the miners that it can burn you or make your teeth fall out if it accidentally gets in your mouth. And if you ingest it, it can kill you. The miners here do not have access to adequate health care either. So they just retire when their health makes them, basically.
Yeah, it's always a medical retirement.
Yeah. Another job related to mining sulfur is its processing. This is when I was talking about once it gets delivered to the factory. Here, workers boil the sulfur and filter it several times to remove sand and dirt and all that. Then it's poured onto the floor of the factory to cool so that they can, get it back up again. Yeah. Many of these miners are basically stuck in these jobs. They're just trying to house and feed their families and hoping, that they hope that their old children will have a better future, of course.
Yeah.
But many don't live past the age of 50.
That sounds about right.
This is actually one of the last places in the world to mine sulfur this way. Most sulfur is obtained now as a byproduct of natural gas production or oil refinement, like everywhere else. Yeah. But for those mining it in Indonesia, it is cheaper for the owners of the mine, and it pays better than other jobs in the area, such as farming. So that's why it's lasted there so long. Like it's cheaper for the owners, and it's worth it for the miners.
I just wonder what the profit
because there's
margin is.
no nothing else they can do.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Sad.
It's exploitation.
So
I wonder if they tried to unionize.
I mean, they don't want their families to starve, though. I think they worry.
Of course, that's always the risk. But I mean, they're not living real life anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. So jobs are scarce, and while it's hard and dangerous, the men here see it as a necessary sacrifice, though. So,
of course, yeah.
So yeah, the next time you think your job sucks, think of the sulfur miners.
I'm gonna go over there and just be a community organizer. I'm gonna get them to unionize.
Okay, so let's travel to India. Where one of the world's worst industrial accidents in modern history occurred.
Oh, real quick. Forgive me for interrupting. I was able to describe to a patient of mine yesterday basically the elevator pitch of the radium rules.
Oh.
And how Orange, New Jersey, there's still a spot in Orange, New Jersey that is an EPA Superfund site because of radium. It was so fun. Just figured I'd throw that in there.
Nice. See, you can just take this information everywhere with you. People might look at you funny, but that's fine.
Who cares about that?
It's fine. But yeah, this was known as the Bhopal gas tragedy. In the 1970s, the Indian government was encouraging foreign companies to set up there to provide jobs and resources for local industries. One such company that was invited to set up there was the Union Carbide Corporation, who would produce and provide a pesticide known as Sevin. You ever heard of Sevin dust?
The band?
No.
Okay.
Sevin dust is like a pesticide.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Plant people will know.
Huh? Plant people know?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why I don't.
Who is Seven Dust the band?
There's a band called Seven Dust, I'm pretty sure.
Really? I know
Yeah.
Avenged Sevenfold.
Right? Avenged Sevenfold.
I know Seven Dust. But this is SEVIN. 7, not SEVE. Not the numbers.
Yeah, I think it is spelled that way, matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe they like plants. Anyway, but this pesticide was commonly used throughout Asia. The government wanted the nation of India to have some investment in the company, and it had like a 22% stake in the United Carbide India Limited, which is a subsidiary of the company. Does that make sense?
Subsidiary.
Yeah.
I'm one of my special interests is Greek mythology, so I'm just correcting the pronunciation.
I'm struggling.
Subsidiary. I'm sorry you feel bad.
Hang
I know this isn't reaching you emotionally, but I'm going to say it anyway. She just flipped me off.
So, yes, a subsidiary of the company. A subsidiary of the company. So,
auscultate.
So the location the factory was built was the capital of Madhya Pradesh. Bhopal is the capital. Yeah, so I wonder if, and this is just me thinking, are all the Asian languages tonal in nature? I know Chinese is like a tonal language.
Yes. Right? That's a great question. I don't know.
I know a little bit of Korean simply because of
Taekwondo.
Right, Master Part. But the way he explains it, we just learn certain words. But I wonder if it's tonal. Well, I don't know though, because I've learned a tiny bit of Chinese or Mandarin.
Yes.
And it can be different based on the way you say it. Like the way you say certain things.
Yes, the intonation is very important.
Which is kind of difficult for me because I really struggle with tone.
Yes.
It's just
And just to check in with you real quick, it's probably the tism.
Yeah. I tend to be quite monotonous. And I wonder if that's maybe I just struggle with pronunciation for that reason too.
Yeah, but there's other times, to your credit, there are other times, especially when you are trying to be funny or sarcastic or whatever, you make me laugh so much with the way you say something.
When I'm trying to be sarcastic, though, I emphasize.
It's art.
I make it work. I emphasize it. So the location the factory was built was the capital of Madhya Pradesh, Bhopal, and it allowed for light industry, nothing hazardous because people lived nearby and all. Bhopal had a population of about 1 million people. It's a lot of people. The location was good from a transportation perspective and all. There was a railway nearby. So from what I read, the company there was only cleared to make pesticide formulations from component chemicals like MIC, methyl isocyanate, that was shipped from another facility. So it had to be shipped and then they would make it together with something else to, However, the making of those component chemicals, like the methyl isocyanate, it's a more hazardous affair. And the location of the company was not appropriate for that, right? But of course, competition among other industries rose, and money obviously was more important to those running the show here. So they started making said components, the methyl isocyanate included in the same factory, which they were not supposed to be doing.
Whoops.
So this methyl isocyanate, or MIC, as I've called it, is an extremely toxic organic compound used in the making of pesticides, as we've mentioned here, rubber and adhesives. It is colorless, poisonous, irritating, lacrimatory, which is, makes you tear up your lacrimal glands.
Lacrimatory.
That's
the word?
It's the word.
Your word of the day is lacrimatory.
Can we use that in a sentence, please?
Your perfume is very lacrimatory to me.
Nice one.
Lacrimatory.
Mm.
That's so fun to say.
So yes, lacrimatory. Also flammable.
Oh, say that again.
Flammable.
Flammable.
What did I say?
No, I just missed it the first time around.
Yeah, I did too. That's why I was like, what did I say?
No, actually, I meant. What did I say?
Flammable. It is most often. It's
If you said hockey stick instead of the word flammable, which is on the screen.
It is most often made during the reaction of monomethylamine, which is a derivative of ammonia.
Yes. And anybody who's seen Breaking Bad knows that methylamine is a component in cooking crystal meth.
Is it?
It is.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. It's a derivative of ammonia. Also, so it's a reaction of monomethylamine with phosgene.
Okay.
And that one should ring a bell.
Must be a phosphorus-based.
Phosgene gas, which we've discussed before when discussing chemical warfare.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. MIC is toxic by inhalation, ingestion, and contact with skin in quantities as low as 0.4 parts per million. The American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists, that's a lot to say, sets the limit at 0.02 parts per million. If exposed to MIC, symptoms include coughing, chest pain, shortness of breath, trouble breathing, asthma, irritation of the eye, nose, and throat, like I'm having right now, and skin damage. High amounts, 21 parts per million and up, can cause pulmonary edema. So you got like the swelling in there, filling up with fluid and all. Emphysema, hemorrhages in the pulmonary spaces. So you've got like excess air in parts of the lung you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
And you've also got, hemorrhages, bleeding in the pulmonary spaces. It can also cause bronchial pneumonia and death. While it is odorless, at least at or below 5 parts per million, it can cause heavy tearing, even at low concentrations, as it's an irritant to the eyes. And this can kind of serve as a warning of sorts if you're aware that the gas may be nearby. Like you'll know something's wrong, something's in the air, like your eyes shouldn't be feeling like this.
Some would say it's lacrimatory.
That, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lacrimatory. But yeah, there is no known antidote for MIC poisoning. So
yikes.
That sucks.
You just have to wait it out.
Well.
Or just die.
Yeah.
Okay.
By 1984, this particular area was not doing so great economically. Crop failure and famine was ravaging the place. So there was really no need for pesticides because they couldn't even keep the crops alive,
Unreal.
So
wait, when was the plant built?
It would have been
late
the
70s?
Early 70s.
Wow.
Because they didn't start making the actual MIC component until 79, I think.
Listen, in America, this would have been 77, 76, when my dad went to work at a chemical manufacturing plant, they were dumping benzene on the ground. It is still in the soil at that site.
Oh yeah, it's
which has now since been torn down and decommissioned and stuff. The EPA told them it would cost $100 million to clean up the site. I just cannot imagine how much worse it would have been in a place like India where there are no regulations.
We're getting there.
Okay. By the way, guys, benzene it's carcinogenic.
Oh yeah.
I cannot believe my dad is not sick.
So the company was making less in this location, and they decided to shut the facility down and sell it or ship parts of it to other places. Now, no one wanted to buy it, so the latter option was the best.
Did you happen to mention where the international investment came from in this plant?
The 22%.
Yeah, that was the Indian government stake in it. But the rest of it was, where were these companies from?
America.
Oh, they were American.
There's a similar, I think the sister company was in like West Virginia.
Okay.
Okay.
Of course we would.
The United Carbide Corporation.
Yes, you did mention that. Okay.
Something like that. Or anyway, Union Carbide. Sorry.
Union Carbide?
I kept wanting to say United, but
It's a common
it's
corporate
Union.
word.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Union Carbide Corporation.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, there's one in, I don't know if it's still there, but there was one in West Virginia at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, the plant was still running on low operations, and safety concerns and the like were not exactly being monitored or cared about.
You're kidding.
The local government knew that the company was being negligent at this point, but they were worried about like the economic effects of pressuring them at all, so they just didn't do anything about it. So on December 2nd of 1984 at 11 p.m., there was a small leak of this MIC gas.
Oh, dear.
As well as building pressure in one of the storage tanks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, a safety device called the vent gas scrubber, it was made to neutralize any discharge or leaks, had apparently been turned off 3 weeks before.
Okay.
This, so sucks. But yeah, what was happening now was 1 ton of water normally used for cleaning the pipes was mixing with 40 tons of MIC in this container due to a faulty valve, causing an exothermic reaction and the pressure to build rapidly.
I see where this is going.
For the reaction, the higher the heat, the faster the reaction, as you can imagine. And heat was being made by the reaction. So it's this cycle of, so you can see where, you can see where this is going. A 30-ton refrigeration unit made for cooling the storage tank in case of problems was not working because it had been drained of coolant to be used elsewhere. Yet another safety feature, the gas flare safety system, which burns off like extra flammable gases being released, turns these like toxic gases into less toxic components, had been turned off for 3 months at this point. Yeah.
It just feels like there was a meeting in a conference room somewhere on that facility and like, how can we blow it up? Anybody got any ideas?
Well, it's like, yeah.
I mean, really blow it up, like sky high. Just let's spitball here.
So, yeah. Another safety valve.
The explosion.
Burst under pressure.
Oh, that okay.
So, yeah, another safety valve burst under pressure. This led to a runaway reaction resulting in 42 tons of MIC gas, among other gases, to be emitted out into the atmosphere at about 1 a.m. now on December 3rd.
When everyone's ready for a chemical plant catastrophe.
Yeah, it seems that these things always happen at night. What the heck? So yeah, most of the residents of the town would be sleeping. This gas cloud moved into the city of Bhopal, killing about 3,800 immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. Now some were still asleep as it reached them. It especially affected the slums because they were closer to the plant.
Of course.
An estimated 10,000 people were dead within the first 1 to 2 days.
Oh my God.
The scene was this hellscape of human and animal corpses in the streets within hours, basically, of the leak. It is estimated that 15,000 to 20,000 further premature deaths occurred between 1984 and 2011 as a result of the disaster.
For sure. Respiratory disease, cancer.
So many left the area after and were not able to be followed up with, so we can't have perfectly accurate numbers. Survivors living in the area and were exposed to the MIC gas when this happened are still being affected today, as you can imagine. And we'll talk about that in a second too. One study of those exposed in Bhopal showed short-term and long-term effects of the gas on the body. Effects during the first 6 months included watering, redness, and ulceration of the eyes, respiratory distress, pulmonary edema, pneumothorax, which is like the lung collapse, and pneumonitis, so any kind of inflammation thereof, persistent abdominal pain, constant diarrhea, and anorexia, anxiety, of course, plus neuroses of varying nature, neurological issues concerning memory loss, spatial ability, and dysfunction,
Wow.
impaired reasoning, and loss of coordination. There were also various chromosomal deformities.
Chromosomal.
Yeah, I know.
No, you put the emphasis on a different syllable.
Yeah.
Chromosomal.
You know what? Here we are.
I'm just kidding. I'm totally messing with you.
Chromosomal deformities leading to, I know what it is, leading to birth defects and other major issues. Effects past 6 months included chronic conjunctivitis, so like that, inflammation, and all that of the eyes, pink eye, basically is what you think of when you hear conjunctivitis. Watering of the eyes, as well as cornea problems with your corneas.
Lachrymosity, one might say. I'm just picking words out of the air. No connection.
It's a good word. What can you do?
Mm-hmm.
Obstructive and restrictive airway disease, so like COPD and such.
It's awful.
And decreased lung function overall. Fertility problems and recurrent miscarriages, as well as low birth weights, and higher infant mortality, impaired learning, motor speed and precision, and more chromosomal issues.
Mm-hmm. So this reminds me, my dad, I've mentioned this before, he still works in, like, he's in like more on the industrial manufacturing side now, but for 42 years he worked in chemical manufacturing. One day there was one of the plant supervisors noticed a plume of smoke coming out of a different part of the system from a distance. He ordered that valve to be shut. What he didn't know was that it was being opened to vent a particular process where they were cleaning a certain component in the system. So they shut the vent, and it builds up pressure in the system in another part, and a handful of guys are inside the apparatus, and it explodes in a shower of a substance called oleum. They're showered with it. It's liquid, but it quickly it's also vapor. So it burns you completely. So they inhaled it and suffered lung injury. I think one guy passed away. The other guy was severely disabled and got a massive settlement because of it, because it was, occupational negligence.
Was there no communication?
There was not. He didn't like the look of a plume of smoke. He didn't recognize or understand.
I would imagine if maintenance is going on, it should have been discussed with everybody.
There are so many fail-safes in place because in America, the litigious society, a mistake like that will cost you millions upon millions of dollars. It can eat your profit margin for years. So, and obviously, you don't want to hurt anybody. You want people to want to work there. So, but it was a terrible accident. I remember my dad coming home and explaining it to me, and it made me twice as appreciative of how detail oriented my dad was with the job that he did. He was involved with planning construction projects, maintenance projects, making sure things are done in an orderly, with all due diligence type fashion to maximize safety. Because the process, when you're dealing with chemical manufacturing, stuff can blow up.
I know. I used to be nervous of the old, we used to call it the bomb plant, SRS.
Yes.
They don't make bombs there anymore. Well, they say they don't.
They say they don't.
They say they don't.
I think they do.
I don't know anymore. Okay. They do a lot of environmental, I don't know exactly what they do there, actually.
They make bombs.
They took over a town, told them to move.
They did. The town.
And now
town of just across the border, a town called Ellington was literally moved, and now it is called New Ellington.
Yeah, they were forced to move so they could build that.
And eminent domain is a thing for the federal government.
They created
the Savannah River site,
and then
SRS.
We called it the bomb plant because they used to make bombs.
100%. And they still do, henceforth.
Comforting, but I don't know what they make there now.
Well, you got a nuclear plant just up the road from there.
Yeah.
So,
Here we are. Hopefully I'm not talking about us one day.
Ayo.
Anyway, so yeah, while some considered
Those nuclear engineers should listen to our podcast. We've laid it out how to not blow up a nuclear plant.
I would
Thank you very
hope
much.
that if they're nuclear engineers, that they know more than us. I hope.
Well, that guy that closed that valve at my dad's work, he should have
My
known more
dad's a
too.
chemical engineer,
He is.
but I don't talk to him. Well, it's not because I don't want to talk to him. We just don't talk much. So
Yeah, he's a typical engineer.
anyway, so yeah. So it's, some consider this an accident. Technically, it may be so, but it was caused by persistent and intentional neglect of safety concerns.
And in India, they don't have the same litigious society.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about that side of it, but now, even during its construction, safety devices and protocols that plants in the U.S. and parts of Europe had tested and proven to be safe were intentionally not installed to save costs. So there were
Chernobyl in the room. Chernobyl has entered the chat.
Oh my gosh! They're like, "Hey, we see you." There were only 8 shutdown devices installed. There should have been 3 times as much, and all of them were manual as opposed to being controlled via computer systems.
Oh my god!
So
you literally have to run there. Oh my god!
So the local authorities knew nothing about what was being produced. Like, they knew the name of the substance, but they didn't know how dangerous it was or what they didn't know what it was. They knew what it was, but they didn't know what it was.
Personal, yeah. They didn't know what it was. Personal injury lawyers are salivating just listening to this.
Yeah. So, but yeah, there were no emergency plans put into place in case of a disaster like this, even though there was like 1 million people living in the city. Now, there is a story here of a hero that we need to mention because it's not spoken of much. This person's not mentioned enough. And I'm going to try to say his name correctly. I did listen to a bit of a documentary on it, so just go along with me here. Ghulam Destigar.
I like it.
Okay. Ghulam Destigar worked at the Bhopal Junction railway station close to the factory and was on duty when all of this happened. So he stepped outside. He was working this night, and he stepped outside to like this gas burning his eyes and his throat, and he saw others running and basically just choking on the air.
Yeah.
Many boarded the train that was there, like they were trying to flee, and they just got on the train.
Yeah.
And he quickly directed incoming trains away from the city because he knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
And he flagged the train already there, and that was overloaded with these fleeing people to leave like 20 minutes earlier than it was supposed to. Like he got everybody
to get them out of there. Yeah.
And his actions like saved hundreds of lives during this disaster.
Oh my gosh.
One of his sons passed away during it, and his wife and other sons were exposed as well. The station basically became a makeshift hospital as he tried to help those who were choking and having all these GI symptoms, and nobody knew what was going on. He also developed numerous health issues because of the poison gas and spent the rest of his life in and out of hospitals. He died as a result of throat cancer later in 2003.
Yeah.
And he was never rewarded or much recognized for his actions. Now, also, there was this Netflix show. It was called The Railway Men. That is basically like a mini series inspired by the Bhopal disaster. Dastigar's family were upset that he was not properly mentioned or paid tribute in the show, and thus not credited for what he did to save so many. So, just throwing
massive L.
Just want to, just want to put his name out there. If you want to look him up, it's GhulamDastigir. Ghulam Dastigar.
His family made a public statement, though.
Yeah.
Good on them.
So, pretty cool story.
Well, they probably owe them money if they mention him directly. But who cares?
I don't think that's the thing. I think they changed the name or something like that. From what I read, like they just bypassed the man.
Yeah.
Who helped save all these people.
But anybody to
tell their story.
Sure, but anybody from Bhopal in the last 50 years will know what that series is about.
And I think there's like a plaque about like, I think with the names of those who died, like trying to help others in the incident. His name's not even on there because he didn't die at that time, but like he did help, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well, if they acknowledge that, they owe him money too.
Anyway, so
even more.
it's just it's cool and it's sad because it's not talked about. But
well, we mentioned him here.
Yes. So public health was not exactly great in this area in 1984. The tap water they had was only available a few hours a day, and it wasn't always clean. There was no functioning sewage system in place. People often dumped human waste in nearby lakes. One of these lakes was actually a source of drinking water for some. So,
yikes.
There were 4 hospitals around the area, but not enough doctors or other medical personnel to handle the amount of people in the city, basically. And so, that's another reason why the train station basically became a makeshift hospital. There just wasn't the time or the doctors or the hospital space for all of these people. Now, after the disaster, the U.S. portion of the company left the plant without cleaning it up or the water supply around it.
I love it.
As such, wells used for drinking have long been contaminated with chemicals known to cause cancers and birth defects. The groundwater itself has been tested, and 9 out of the 28 forever chemicals or persistent organic pollutants, POPs, they call them POPs because it sounds good. Anyway, they were found. They're called forever chemicals because they keep their toxic nature indefinitely. Like, they don't stop being toxic. Mercury has also been found in the soil at concentrations 6 million times higher than typical. So,
did you say 6 million? Okay.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
Okay. More than 150,000 people are still struggling with health issues because of this disaster. The company, UCC, Union Carbide Corporation, has since merged with Dow. Is it Dow Industries?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But neither the original company or Dow has really taken any further responsibility for the issue.
No.
They tried to put the blame solely on the Indian government side and also tried to blame it on possible Sikh extremists, which doesn't, and disgruntled employees.
That is a choice.
Right. But this was quickly shot down.
Was it?
As you can imagine.
By who?
By the Indian government and people. I mean,
good.
Yeah.
Good for them.
However, their website still says, and I quote literally from their website, caused by an act of sabotage.
Ooh.
That's what it says. It is all very shady. They have a whole section of their website that talks about it, and I don't know, it's weird. It's I was reading it and I was like, you guys are going through a lot of effort here to kind of say what this was and what this wasn't.
It's like reading a post on social media.
I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist, but it just seems really shady. It just seems really shady.
It's not. It's just motivated by money. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's not a reach.
No.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Now, they also withhold information about what was in the gas cloud, and they still do, that shrouded the area. We know MIC, but what else? When heated to 200 degrees or more, MIC gas has been known to produce hydrogen cyanide gas.
Okay.
Which is deadly itself.
That's bad.
And we know that it was, that it reached at least that temperature at some point. So now some of the victims that died did show signs of having been poisoned by cyanide gas, including the cherry red color of their blood. There were signs.
That would explain immediate fatalities.
For some of them, yeah.
Sure.
Those who were later experimentally treated with sodium thiosulfate, which is a treatment for cyanide poisoning, did well afterwards. Oh, and the company had actually put out a statement suggesting the treatment using sodium thiosulfate before quickly removing it and stating that there was no cyanide in the gas. There is no war in Ba Sing Se. That's what it's giving to me right now.
I love how often that phrase is so there is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Okay, Judy.
Is that gosh, what's the character's name? The girl from Ba Sing Se.
Her name's Judy, right?
No. Toph.
Toph?
Is she the one that says, okay, Judy?
No, she's not from there.
Not?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's an earthbender.
Oh, Ba Sing Se is not the Earthbending Kingdom.
It is, but she's not from there.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, like she's
Sorry.
not from that. She's not from Ba Sing Se.
I would like to directly apologize to our listeners who are Avatar: The Last Airbender super fans that I have not brushed up on my lore more before making these egregious statements, as you were.
Like she's from a town where she was doing like not the wrestling, but like the
Gladiator
matches.
fighting?
Yeah, she was doing,
Yeah.
they're doing some kind of fighting. It's been a minute since I've seen the show. But yeah, they went to Ba Sing Se together, but she's not from that town.
Right. Whatever, Judy.
Whatever,
Is she
Judy.
the one that says that?
I don't know. I just made that up. I don't know.
Oh, you don't remember that girl's name?
No, the girl's name is Judy.
It is Judy. I feel like one of the characters, was it Sokka? It's like, whatever, Judy.
I don't know. It would make sense if Toph said it though, because that sounds like Toph.
100%. Oh my God.
Yeah.
They were hysterical sometimes.
It's great.
Great show.
There it is. That's what it'll sound like when one of you finds it, because she's blind. She can't see, but they all rush to see what she saw, even though she can't see. My God.
That's so
Look at
good.
her like. Okay.
Well played. Well played.
Toph is like my favorite character. And Zuko.
Oh man. Why am I so bad at
Be
being good?
I love that show so much.
All right.
Anyway,
Good times.
yes. Okay, so sodium thiosulfate is not a treatment for MIC. So why would they say, yeah, treat them with that if they didn't think it might be cyanide?
Exactly. Their admission of guilt. If they're offering the treatment, it's an admission of guilt.
No, 'cause
Some lawyer got a hold of them after the fact, and they told him, better not do that, or we're going to end up in court, blah, blah,
Yeah, but they took the statement down. So
blah. Mm-hmm.
now, as I said earlier, there is no antidote for MIC poisoning. In March of 1985, the Indian government enacted the Bhopal Gas Leak Disaster Act as a way of ensuring that claims arising from the accident would be dealt with speedily and equitably.
Oh.
The act made the government the sole representative of the victims in legal proceedings, both within and outside India. They did eventually settle with the Indian Supreme Court, the company did, in 1989, but it was also kind of a shady deal, if you ask me. In this settlement, UCC accepted moral responsibility and agreed to pay $470 million to the Indian government to be distributed to claimants as full and final settlement. This figure was partly based on being allowed to state that only 3,000 people died and 102,000 suffered permanent disabilities. Like, didn't know you could just negotiate with body counts like that, but okay. Like, it just is disrespectful to the rest of the people who, I don't know.
It is unconscionable.
I don't like it.
Again, lawyers have the reputation they have for a reason.
Okay, well, by the end of October of 2003, according to the Bhopal Gas Tragedy Relief and Rehabilitation Department.
They created a department to deal with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was a big issue. It was like, it's literally one of the biggest industrial accidents.
Right.
Well, you could say accident, but negligence, in history. So, but according to them, compensation had been awarded to 554,895 people for injuries received and 15,310 survivors of those killed. The average amount to families of the dead was $2,200.
In 1989?
No, this is in, they are stating this at the end of, close to the end of 2003. So I don't know exactly when that money was dished out to each one of them, but
right.
Yeah, between the time of that and 2003 is what they're saying.
And I'm thinking of the exchange rate as well.
Right, yeah. Eventually, in 1993, the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear appeals of any lower court, stating that Bhopal victims may not sue for damages in U.S. courts and that they were to be placed entirely under Indian jurisdiction.
Yeah. What was this, 2003 you said?
This would have been in 1993 when the U.S. Supreme Court decided to do that. I get some of it, but like I don't know, like it feels, I don't know. It just, the whole thing feels shady to me, but
100%. Well, you're talking about one of the biggest companies. Dow is one of the biggest chemical manufacturing companies in the world. And, they got the money to buy a couple of congressmen if they need to.
Yeah. And it's just like the people that are left dealing with issues, like I said before, they already don't have access to great health care. If they want health care, they're going to have to go somewhere else. It's going to cost a lot of money itself. And these are people dealing with these issues
the rest of their lives.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't something that just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I understand, like, you can only do so much to fix it, but it's like, I don't know. It's just.
But there needs to be due diligence.
Yeah. And like, and I'll talk about this in a moment too, but like, there's still a lot of issues with companies going over there and not following the safety protocols we would have here, probably.
Sure.
Like, just to save costs. And like I said, I'll go over that in a minute, but I did find the company's take on the situation, and I'll just read what they said. This is from the UCC's website, because I went there.
They have a website.
Oh yeah, they have a website, and they have like I said, in it, like a whole part of the website is for this situation. Like, you can find it, and it's like pages of like legal terminology and stuff. And anyway,
just a video of Judy saying, "There is no war in Ba Sing Se."
Now, they say the Bhopal plant was owned and operated by UCIL, an Indian company, the subsidiary.
Okay.
In which UCC held just over half the stock. Other stockholders included Indian financial institutions and thousands of private investors in India. UCIL designed, built, managed, and operated the plant using Indian consultants and workers. In 1994, UCC sold its entire stake in UCIL to McLeod Russell India Limited of Calcutta. Of course, this is after the accident, so I don't know why they're mentioning that. But and UCIL was renamed Eveready Industries India Limited, EIIL, if you want to shorten it.
Why'd you sell it?
As a result of the sale of its shares in UCIL, UCC retained no interest in the Bhopal site. With the approval of the India Supreme Court, the proceeds of the UCIL sale were placed in a trust used exclusively to fund a hospital in Bhopal to provide specialist care to victims of the tragedy. Because the government closed off the site from any and all operations following the gas release, that's what they say, UCIL was only able to undertake cleanup work in the years just prior to the UCC's sale of its stock in 1994, and spent some $2 million on that effort. The central and state government authorities approved, monitored, and directed every step of the cleanup work. Following the sale, we understand that EIIL, who they sold it to, continued some cleanup work. In 1998, the Madhya Pradesh state government, which owned and had been leasing the property to EIIL and still owns the property today, canceled EIIL's lease, took over the facility, and assumed all accountability for the site, including the completion of any additional remediation. A trial incineration of some waste from Bhopal plant site was conducted in August of 2015. For additional information, please see the page on this site entitled Remediation, Cleanup of the Bhopal plant site. Specific questions regarding that work or any other site remediation work are best directed to Madhya Pradesh state government and or the Central Pollution Control Board.
Sure, we'll just call them.
So
sure,
that's their take. I wanted to give both sides, you know.
You ever heard the term "passing the buck"?
Yeah.
That's what that is.
You know what's funny? When I first heard that phrase, and maybe it's the tism, but first heard that phrase, I was like, why are they passing a male deer around? Passing the buck. Like I in my head, I kept seeing a deer, not money.
How about kicking the can down the road?
Well, that's a game people used to play, though, right? Kicking the can.
I think so.
Yeah. So I just, like, I know things mean other things, but the image that pops into my mind is the actual thing being said. So, like, yeah, I'm seeing somebody kicking a can down the road.
Literal interpretation.
So why don't you pick it up and throw it away? Okay. Don't be a litterer.
Stop littering.
Yeah.
God.
So anyway, the Environment Protection Act was passed in India in 1986, creating the Ministry of Environment and Forests, MOEF, if you will. It's kind of fun.
Interesting.
Under this act, the Ministry of Environment and Forests was given overall responsibility for administering and enforcing environmental laws and policies. While this sounds like progress, India has put more of their energy and money towards economic growth instead, which I get. I know, you know, it's like there's a lot of struggle with both sides. So,
tons. Well, the sheer size of their population.
Yeah, instead of keeping with the environment, toxic free, basically. But
yeah, and I'm unaware of how the Indian federal government like raises revenue or taxes, like if you're going to have that many people, you have to have some sort of streamlined, standardized taxation system to where you can provide services and departments for taking care of that many people. It's a massive undertaking.
Well, honestly, too, like you're basically like, well, do I want food today, or or clean water?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you know,
which is inhumane.
Yeah,
it is inhumane.
So, as such, there have been other incidents as well in various areas. For instance, in Kodaikanal, a really pretty hill town in southern India, residents caught the Anglo-Dutch company Unilever dumping mercury-laden waste from a thermometer factory. And it wasn't just a tiny bit either. It was 7.4 tons of the stuff. And the site that they were dumping it in was near a school.
Oh, my God. Okay.
So this happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
And they just hope people don't notice it. Also, and trigger warning here for mentioning of 9/11, nothing crazy, but have you ever wondered where the steel waste from the 9/11 ruins went?
No.
Well, some of it went to parts of India, likely still contaminated with heavy metals and asbestos. When we discussed 9/11 and asbestos exposure during and after the attacks, do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, like when it fell, all that asbestos dust. Yeah. That's why there are people in New York who have dealt with asbestos related respiratory illnesses because of the collapse of the buildings and
the dust cloud.
Asbestos, yeah.
The dust cloud covered Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
So, but yeah, the steel waste was shipped there of all places, and it's probably still covered in all of that. Which honestly, mining of asbestos and production of asbestos still goes on there with little to no regulation anyway.
Of course.
So like, yeah, they're still doing that kind of thing. So even their own mining operations can have horrible environmental impacts,
As far as I know, the caste system is still in place in India. And the lowest rung of the caste system, nobody really cares if those people live or die. So you can exploit the cheap labor and burn through those people with fatality and morbidity. And there's really no repercussion.
Well, yeah, and then you have you get all of your stuff that you need over here and you don't even think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes you feel like the capital from,
yes.
the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it's very, it's becoming too much truth.
So, yeah. So trying to fight against environmental contamination and for public health in these areas is an uphill battle. Just last summer, 3 women from Bhopal, where the gas leak happened, actually came to the U.S. to speak with environmental justice groups and lawmakers about the struggle for justice and cleanup, which still has not happened in full. And of course, like that has been put in the hands of the Indian government, but it's like I said, they're still choosing between economy and environment because it's it's where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So poisoning is continuing to happen after the fact. More than 1.1 million tons of contaminated soil remain at the Union Carbide factory site, according to a 2010 report by National Environmental Engineering Research Institute and the National Geophysical Research Institute.
Are these independent agencies?
Yeah.
Wow.
While horrible, this is not the only disaster involving toxic waste in India. There's been other U.S. companies, such as DuPont, that have tried building factories there with the idea that they couldn't be held liable for any accidents or incidents.
100%. And that sounds like a DuPont thing to do. If you guys have ever seen the movie Foxcatcher, oh my God. You will never have an ounce of sympathy or empathy for anything DuPont. Holy bejeebus.
And I get that you might not be trying to be shady, but also if you're in control of said facility, it's up to you to make sure safety protocols are installed and working, right? Shouldn't you at least be monitoring that kind of thing?
Listen,
if you have any stake in that company, shouldn't you be monitoring that?
Listen, I keep coming back to the saying, there's no such thing as an ethical billionaire.
Yeah. I actually found a BBC article that was written within a day of me researching all this. Of like protests in Bhopal near the old Union Carbide Corporation facility.
Don't get too close.
It seems that the Indian government has shown some efforts to dispose of waste from the site, but the residents do not trust its process or intentions, which is fair. I mean, they've lived through this disaster. Apparently, containers holding 337 tons of the toxic waste, including pesticide materials and forever chemicals, like we talked about, are just sitting there. But many are worried about the waste being disposed of near their homes or of another disaster occurring in the process.
Sure.
I mean, yeah. The plan that the government officials have laid out involves heating the waste at 1,200 degrees Celsius. That's like 2,192 degrees Fahrenheit. 90 kilograms of it at a time for safety testing. And then if all goes well, they'll do 250. Wow.
It's a number. Don't worry.
270 kilograms at a time, like in batches. And they say that they're going to use a 4-layer filtering system to contain the smoke and fumes. And then
I was about to ask if it was a closed system they do this in.
Yeah, and hopefully there's no accident there.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't explode.
And then they want to encase it in a like 2-layer membrane and then bury it in a special landfill. Now, while authorities argue that it is safe, there is some debate amongst environmentalists. Some think that incineration may produce slag contaminated with harmful chemicals such as mercury and dioxin, which we've talked about dioxin as well.
Incineration.
So that is just some recent news with all that.
It just feels like they're going to go for the lowest common denominator process they can find to make it look like they're doing something.
Yeah, and that's what some of them think. They think like, oh, they're trying to distract us with making it look like they are cleaning it up while ignoring a lot of other issues. So,
they haven't even achieved clean water for all their citizens. Like it's kind of a dumpster fire.
Yeah, and India is a big place. There's a lot of people living there.
Tons.
And there's just been years of pollution and waste and
I remember
waste dumping and all that.
I remember hearing a guy at church years ago. He actually got a chance to take a trip to India. It was like a mission trip or something. And at the time he had, 3 young children. He's a dad. He's married and stuff. And I asked him about the trip and he was like, dude, there's hundreds of thousands of homeless children in the street. He said, I nearly cried. I was like, I couldn't process that.
Nearly.
I was like, did you say hundreds of thousands?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said they're everywhere. Children. So
I'm like, well, that's it. They're coming home with me.
I mean,
we'll live on a farm. It'll be great.
Hey, there's water.
Dogs and babies. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think I could come back home after seeing that.
He had difficulty.
Yeah.
That's what he was telling me.
I mean, like, obviously, there's only so much you as one person can do, but like...
That's right. The weight of...
but it's still going to be...
Yeah. The weight of that level of human suffering. And he didn't go everywhere in the country. He was just in... Was he in Calcutta? I think they were in Calcutta.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah, but there are people who are living with that kind of life, so... But yeah, and this makes it harder.
And it should not be so.
No, it should not be. But yeah, like I said, there are other incidents I do want to talk about, but obviously in a different episode, like I mentioned the Navajo Nation and the uranium mines and and all that. But I'm gonna talk about those 3, I think, next time. That's my goal. I literally was trying to fit all of it in this one, and like I was going through it, and I was like, yeah, it's not gonna work. If I want to discuss all of it in detail, like I like to do, it's just not gonna work out like that. So I'm trying to make myself try to give myself boundaries when it comes to how much I research each week.
Hang on. Are you saying you have limits as a person?
I do, and I hate it. I do. I hate it, and that maybe it's.
When you recognize your limits as a person, it opens up the opportunity to have leisure and enjoyment.
And I feel guilt the entire time. I do. I know there's something wrong with me because I'm constantly like...
Yeah, it's statism.
Well, yeah, but I'm constantly like, why am I like this? Why, as a human, why am I so inefficient?
Why am I so bad at being dead?
Why can't I just do all the things I want to do?
Yes, and your brain is
I
like your
know.
mind is so strong.
And I understand that it's not realistic. I understand to a point, but like I want it to be. I want to be able to finish everything, and I want to be able to,
Of course.
like, okay, there's some people that like I see, and lately it's been Aaron Parnas on
Yeah.
the TikToks, you know,
Yeah.
with his news and stuff. I'm
Mhm.
like, how does he have the time and energy that he has? He's on there constantly giving us all this
He
news.
doesn't have any
And I'm
kids.
like, I want whatever he's taken.
He doesn't have any children.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
But still, like the motivation and like the just staying on task. That's part of it for me too. I
That's what you mean.
struggle
Oh gosh, yeah.
because like I can get hyper focused, but then like get pulled away and get hyper focused on something else, and then
So
be
yeah.
like, oh, I need to get back to this, and you know.
Well, you remember his brain is full of all of those straight lines.
I mean that we know of, but I don't know. I just, yeah,
I'm just waiting for him to comment on one of our videos. Be like, oh my gosh, this is me.
yeah. I mean, you don't know.
Maybe his
You don't know.
hyperfocus is news.
Maybe he's just taking medication, and I'm not.
Maybe he's rolling on Adderall.
Maybe he's
We
on
don't
the
know.
Vyvanse. We don't know.
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, but that's what I have. But you know, I respect him. I do. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah, because I see every time I open the app, I see his face with some new news, and not all of it's great, but he's there. Like he's got a very comforting presence, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna get through this anyway.
Everybody, we have breaking news.
I'm like, I just saw you have breaking news an hour ago.
You just broke news 30 seconds ago, bro.
Yeah. So anyway, but there we are. That's what I have for you for this week's episode. And
Fantastic.
I am looking forward to more research and to not have this voice.
Yeah.
I'm
just totally
really
cool.
ready for this sickness to go away, this pestilence.
Pestilence. Is part 2 coming next, or are you moving on to something different?
It's not necessarily a part 2,
Okay.
but I'll probably just, you know, it's going to be like, probably talk about 3 Mile Island, Fukushima, more radioactive type waste stuff.
I'm interested.
But yeah, because I, you know, I was thinking about doing like an episode where it's like poison and then an episode on like some crazy disease like we've been doing. But it's like,
well,
I want to do this because people have mentioned some of these places, and then maybe go back and do something like, I don't know, rabies.
There you go.
Insect-borne illnesses that are always fun to talk about. So,
well, I have seen the entire Fallout series, so I'm something of a scientist myself.
Oh my God. Okay. Have you ever played the game?
I have not. I've never played Fallout, but it's very popular.
Well, then you can't call yourself a scientist.
I mean,
I'm sorry.
Auscultate. All right. That's going to do it for this episode, everyone. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.